Today we are doing the Imbolc Tag video, so I have been doing these for quite a few of the points for the Wheel of the Year, and I couldn't not do one for Imbolc. So obviously, I have created this one. It's very similar to my other ones. There's always a few questions that are a little bit unique for the particular season, and of course your answers are going to be unique, because Mabon versus Imbolc are very different. So anyways, let's jump into the questions. So number one, what does Imbolc represent or symbolize for you? So I just posted a video yesterday talking about my Imbolc plan, so I kind of talk about it a little bit there. But basically, I tend to think of Imbolc as the time of renewal, self-love, self-care, and just an overall self-evaluation for the upcoming year, because this is around the time during the Imbolc season where we have up until like almost the end of March, where this is the last bits of winter, and then we slowly are going to start going outside and starting to work on our gardens and stuff like that. And so for me, this is a really good time to just kind of inner reflection, work on yourself, and relationships and your self-care routines, stuff like that. Question number two, how do you usually celebrate the Sabbat or season? Honestly, for the most part, I always think of this a little bit as a trickster season, just because it's in February, we start to just like hope for the warm days, and then it snows the next day and you're like, damn. Like you're ready for it to be warm. But overall, I really still think of this as the ending of winter, as like the basic premise for this particular point in the Wheel of the Year. Number three, what Imbolc correspondences are important for you? I always love to incorporate the color white because of course it's still winter. At Yule we usually don't have a lot of white incorporated despite it being very snowy. A lot of times Yule is going to be for like reds and greens, and so Imbolc for me is the time when we really harness in on like the winter colors, so a lot of white, because the clouds are a whitish gray, the snow covers everything, you're constantly shoveling it up, there's always snowstorms, there's been a lot of fog. It just typically is like either gray or white. I usually just simplify with white. And so I'll like to do a lot of like snow magic or ice magic because that's what's around right now. Question number four, what was the most memorable celebration you have had? So I mentioned this in the last video very briefly, but in 2015, which is still crazy to think that was 8 years ago now, but clear back in 2015, I was a college student and I went out on Imbolc morning and I had made my ice candle the night before. If you don't know what that is, it's basically an ice candle holder that I added like rocks and seeds and stuff into it, and then I put a candle in it and I did a meditation in the early morning. I bundled up in my cloak and sat out on the frost-covered grass. We didn't have any snow that year, and honestly it was a pretty early spring, but it was freaking cold. So everywhere was just covered in glistening ice, and I sat out there before the sun rose and lit my candle, did my ritual and meditation, and then when the sun came out, then I closed up sacred space and let the candle holder slowly melt out. It took a while, honestly, for that thing to melt because it was still cold, but that is my favorite. Honestly, this is the one out of all of them that I have the most struggle relating to, so that's why I'm changing it up a lot this year to see if I can try and get this time of the year to mean something more than just, it's a day, and then move on with my life. Question number five, do you have a special dish or meal that you prepare? I usually make a cheesecake. It's very common to have cheesecake for this time of the year. Also, it's one of my favorite dishes ever. Honestly, it really is great for representing the snow-covered ground because the graham cracker crust can easily represent the ground and the fertile ground. Also, since I've been working with Sif for this year, it can also represent her golden hair, because a lot of times the crust, depending on how you cook it, will typically still have like, not like a brown crust to it, it's more golden, depending on how you cook it. Sometimes it gets overcooked and it goes very brown. Sometimes it stays golden. And then also the top of your cheesecake, especially if you make it at home, will get this like slight golden color to the top of it. And again, that can represent Sif for me. And then again, the white of the cheesecake is going to represent the snow. And this year I'm going to be adding a topping of some strawberries. And for me, that's going to represent the love aspect for this time. Number six, do you celebrate as a solitary or with a group? Obviously, I'm going to be celebrating solitary for the actual majority of this, but I'm going to lump in Valentine's Day for this time. And of course, I'm going to be celebrating that with my husband. Number seven, are there any crafts that you do for Imbolc? Again, that ice candle holder. That's what I'm going to be doing as my crafting for this time of the year. 8. Which myth do you incorporate into your celebrations? So I've talked about this. It's not exactly a myth, but it's going to be Sif. And there is absolutely, I don't think, anywhere that says that that's how that's supposed to roll, but I'm going to. I don't think the gods particularly care when you feel like honoring them, so long as you do. Number 9. Is this your favorite celebration? Why or why not? Honestly, this has been my least favorite since the get-go. I've never really connected with this time of the year. That's why I'm changing it so much this year, to see if I can get a little bit better of a connection to it. Number 10, what are your plans for Imbolc this year? I have an entire video talking about that I posted yesterday. Number 11, how have your celebrations changed over the years? When I first started off, for a number of years, I've really tried to stick with what you're told to do. So this was the day to honor Brigid, so I did that for a few years. It's the time for, like, milk, and it's the cows, or not cows, the ewes. They give birth. And so it's all about cheese and milk. And it's like, okay, try and focus on that. And then it's also when the goddess is supposed to be resting after having childbirth, but then also she's supposed to be born. And so the goddess is supposed to be kind of like a young toddler at this point. And so try and focus on that aspect of it. Like, over the years I've really tried, and finally I started to really question it. And some years I would just pretty much skip this one because it was like, I don't care. It doesn't fit. It's not the time to start planting seeds. It's not time to start weeding out the garden from the previous year. It's just snow. And so this year it was like, you know what? We're just gonna really switch it up. And so I decided to switch the focus of it entirely. I don't think anyone else is doing it that way, but it seems to, like, I'm more excited for it this year than I ever have been. Question 12, do you celebrate for a single day or throughout the season? Like I've always said, I do a ritual for the day of, and then I do some kind of focus throughout the rest of the season. And then lastly, number 13, do you incorporate Valentine's Day at all? Are they separate celebrations, or do you combine them into a love celebration, whether it's romantic love or self-love? Now, for me, I'm doing a little bit of both. So the main focus for the season is going to be self-love, self-care, and just overall love. And yet I'm also still going to celebrate Valentine's Day. Again, I know it's very commercialized, and it's very much, we're focusing on like the 21st century version of it, and the idea of getting flowers and spending time with your significant other. Like, I'm still gonna do that, obviously, and so it's just a combination of it, but I'll be continuing that theme of it all the way up until we get to Ostara. So I would love to hear your answers for this one in the comments down below, or tag me in it if you do a video response. Huge thank you to my patrons. I'll have their names here on the screen. If you'd like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every single day, and until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.